Welcome friends to another r/malicious compliance video. I want to give a quick shout out to last week's giveaway winner, Major Killjoy. If you're interested in a chance to win a $20 Amazon gift card, all you have to do is leave as many comments as you'd like on any video I upload this week on Storytime and my second channel, Storytime. At the end of the week, I'll draw a random commenter from either Storytime or Storytime, and that's it. I'm looking forward to seeing your guys' comments as it's always a joy seeing you guys support the channels. I appreciate it so much. That said, our first story of the day is by Carl the Well-Endowed. How an N cost my company $65,000. I've been waiting about 2 months for this fallout in all its glory. I knew my boss would try to make me the fall guy, but I think I employed cover your butt well in this instance. A little backstory. I work as an office engineer at a mid-sized prefabricated concrete structures plant. About 3 months ago, our plant manager left spontaneously for a much higher paying gig down south. Due to this, his responsibilities were distributed to whoever had capacity. I was put in charge of purchasing with the caveat that any purchase order over $5,000 had to be reviewed by that project's project manager. This was due to a mistake, due in part to my inexperience and in part my overconfidence I made on an order which only cost us a couple grand but delayed a project. Also, due to lower labor costs and the size of our own steel shop, we have most of our large steel structures fabricated just across the border in Canada. Okay, on to the story. Our general manager is acting project manager on a project which includes a large steel frame surrounded by concrete modules. I was told to get this frame quoted by our Canadian metal fabricator. I get the quote back and throw together the PO. When I look back through the project specifications before sending the PO for review, I see our project has a Buy American clause, not Buy America as we had assumed. Almost all our other projects are Buy America, and we are very familiar with it. This little N makes all the difference. Under Buy America, a Canadian fabricator can use American steel and meet every requirement. However, under Buy American, all steel must be domestic and all fabrication must be done in the US. My general manager was out of town on what was essentially a vacation to a project site we have in Hawaii and was having none of my calls and emails marked as urgent. I informed him in a couple emails and multiple voicemails that we had to go to a different fabricator or the product would be rejected. I got an angry email back telling me to place the order immediately. I tried one more call in desperation, straight to voicemail, and then sent him over the completed PO with the Buy American spec attached, telling him this is well over my $5,000 limit and I needed to get him to approve it before I sent it out. He approved it in less than 10 minutes. I sent it and waited for the fallout. Well, it finally happened. Our product was delivered yesterday, and today the project owner sent over an inspector to make sure everything was done per project drawings. He noticed the manufacturer right away and told us he would have to reject the product, purely because it does not meet Buy American. In less than 20 minutes, I was getting an earful from my GM asking me why this wasn't caught before we wasted over $60,000 on something that would clearly be rejected. I let him finish his rant, insulting my intelligence, threatening firing me, breaking protocol, the works. I asked him to pull up my emails from the order date and showed him that he was informed of the issue and my concerns were ignored. He didn't take this well and told me to get the heck out of his office. Oops, now there's nothing left but to wait. Our project will be delayed at least a month and the owner of our company's getting involved. I have the email saved on a jump drive at home, and the phone logs, while not recording the conversations, show that I left multiple voicemails on the same date, cannot be touched by the GM. Still a bit nervous, but I think I covered myself pretty well. What do you guys think? With the emails being archived and saved, and the at least history of the voicemails being left, do you think OP has enough to cover their butt and save them from being fired from this company after they went and spent $60,000 on something just for it to be denied? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by ULFR. I'm on the phone. Most days, weather permitting, myself and my floof will head to the local dog park at about the same time. Yes, I'm aware dog parks have a lot of risk associated. I'm very careful. My floof less so, but I have thumbs, so he has to listen. As we're usually there around the same time every day, I recognize most of the dogs and their parents. Fairly frequently, new friends show up and everyone gets to know each other. It's a good time. A lot of social norms, for New England anyways, are relaxed, so it's not really weird to wind up talking to strangers. And as a rule, if someone you don't know is trying to get your attention, odds are you should probably see what they have to say before dropping the hammer. One morning in particular, a dog is engaging in a thankfully more rare form of icky things dogs do sometimes, which was a nice fresh dump on the ground and promptly rolling around in it. I pick up my dog's plop-plops when he drops them. Other people are less conscientious. Now, I don't recognize the floof that's vigorously applying dog cologne, but that's no problem. One unknown dog, one unknown Karen. Having rescued a dog previously who was a notorious poop roller, I decided Karen might like a heads up. Since she's talking on a cell phone, not watching her dog, and nobody wants to be in an enclosed space with a diarrhea diver, I mosey over and wave and say, "Excuse me," and Karen pivots to look at me, covers the bottom of her smartphone and hisses, "I'm on the phone." Well then, my mistake. I mosey back over to the group of people I know, and now we're all watching Karen's dog find 5 further fresh piles of feces to frolic in. Eventually, Karen gets off her super important phone call and summons her dog to leave. And right after she attaches the leash, she shouts, "Ugh, why didn't anyone tell me he was rolling in poop?" I raise my hand and wave and say something to the effect of, "Hey ma'am? Yeah, hi. You were on the phone." She turns beet red and makes hasty tracks to her car. Hasn't been back since. Don't know why. Her dog was awesome. So is it the thumbs is why the dogs listen to us? They're just jealous of our opposable thumbs. We can use our opposable thumbs to boop them on the nose and assert dominance. And hopefully they listen when you say, "No, come here," when they're trying to go headfirst into a pile of, as OP said, plop-plops. This next story is by TwinMom2298. If we don't like it, leave? Okay. Many years ago, I worked for a company that the compensation for most employees was base plus bonus. The bonus was approximately 1/4 of annual salary. The year I was hired, bonus structure was a simple, straightforward calculation and paid annually in January of each year based on production prior year. 2 years later, they decide to restructure the bonus program. Instead, each team is given a quota. No one receives a bonus until the quota is reached, but once the quota is reached, you would receive bonuses monthly based on a slightly different, yet still easy to calculate formula. The teams were broken down into a team of 2 salespeople, another team of 2 salespeople, and a team of 4 salespeople. The team of 4 had a quota that was slightly more than double the other 2 teams, but the top sales guy, one of the owners, was in that team. In August, the 4-person team makes the quota, so in September, staff gets bonus on work done for that team. Come October, paychecks come out, and no bonus for September sales. I ask the bookkeeper about it and she says, "Well, quota hasn't been reached." I said, "We made annual quota in August, and we got bonus in September." This is when we find out that the top salesperson/owner had removed himself from the 4-person team and made a 1-person team, but kept quota the same for both the now 3-person team without him and for his 1-person team. That made those quotas almost impossible to reach and meant no one would receive a bonus for any work for either team. I complained that this was not right and wasn't what we agreed to in our compensation package, and that by doing this, they were effectively cutting the compensation of every staff member by thousands of dollars a year. Owner tells me, "It is what it is. If you don't like it, you're free to leave." So 2 months later, I left because I'd also told every other staff member what they'd done and why no bonuses had been paid in October. By early March, all but 2 other staff members had also quit. This left them with an all-new and untrained staff, which eventually impacted client services and deliverability, and within a year, 3 salespeople had left, and within another year, the company had gone out of business. It's normal enough to see businesses try and save money however they can, but if they think they're going to be able to undercut all their employees by thousands of dollars a year and keep them maintaining the production and also just keeping them coming to work, especially in a field that apparently seems easy enough to get a new job elsewhere, it's a terrible idea. That's probably the easiest example I've ever seen of simultaneously how to kill every bit of employee morale and also make people jump ship. And our final story of the day is by Tossaway Captain, Make Do. Okay, I will. A few years back, I wanted a change of scenery in terms of my job. I was working at a housing agency, but somehow just lost interest by the end. I'd always had a passion for wine on a personal level, and I felt like taking the jump into the business side of it. I got a scheduled interview at a gourmet shop with a great wine selection and where I had shopped previously. I was greeted by the newly hired manager who, for a lack of better words, looked like a military sergeant, buzz cut and a dead serious look in his eyes. I'll refer to him as Boss. He seemed truly friendly and was witty enough through the interview. He did, however, mention that I would be taking over after an employee he had personally fired, who had worked there 7 years. I found that odd, but ended up taking the job because of my passion. My first shift, I was assigned to the guy whose job I had taken. It was odd as heck. He was, however, rather cool about it. I'll refer to him as Ben. Ben showed me the ropes and taught me a few good things. To this day, I swing by his new employment and buy some wine on his recommendation. On his last day, he told me to be wary of the boss and look out for myself. It caught me a bit off guard as I hadn't really caught any red flags, besides Ben's firing, that is. As time went on, it became quite clear what he meant. Ben wasn't the only one he had fired. In fact, during the 6 months the boss had been there, he had fired 15 people. Varying from cashiers to kitchen staff. I found out more than 5 people in addition to that had quit in that time. Boss's routine became clear too. He would lure you in, be charming and charismatic, even give you a small gift after your first few weeks. As soon as you're settled in, his demeanor changes. It went from heaven to heck during my first year. He would micromanage, to the point he would skip his own meetings just to circle the store and complain about people's work. He was convinced that everyone would omit from doing their job if he didn't keep watch. Just over my first year in, I'm pretty drained. I love the job itself and the coworkers are nice, but the boss is a living, walking psychopath. As time went on, his wording and his demeanor became more and more sinister. He would at times stalk me whenever I went from the store into our storage to ask, "What are you doing in here?" My answer always remained the same. Doing my job, what else? Fast forward a few months and I'm at a rock bottom. I hate getting up in the morning, I hate going to work, and I hate my boss. One day, I encounter the same issue I've done every day for months. I go into storage to place an order on the computer. He marches in and asks me what I'm doing. I reply with a question. "What do you think I'm doing?" He goes livid. He yells and shouts as I tell him he shouldn't talk to me that way. As calmly as I could, but honestly I was shook by him. His response? "If you don't freaking like it, find another job, you freak." And so, that's exactly what I set out to do. In the meantime, I did call HR and announced that I was struck with stress due to workplace environment issues. I spent a week at home as I tried to regain my thoughts, my energy, and, in general, some peace and quiet. I also lined up 2 job interviews by the end of the week. HR calls say they want to resolve everything. They more or less admit, off the record, that boss is a special person to be around. They admit that I'm not the first nor even the 5th case. They give me a possibility of staying on for another month, which suits me perfectly if I land a job elsewhere. Here comes the kicker. The company had a bakery shop elsewhere that they needed to close, but still had a rental contract on. They wanted someone to run a pop-up wine shop there. I would get away from boss, and I was happy with that. The boss, however, had shipped out a freak ton of crappy wine without even asking my opinion on the stock or taking the size of the store into consideration. It was a clutter, to say the least. On the second week there, I get a call about one of the interviews I'd been to. I landed the job. I was pretty stoked and looking forward to getting away from there. In the final week, still plenty of crappy wine stacked up in the store. I'm thinking about just how the freak is all of this gonna get moved out of here. Boss calls me up Tuesday, says you'll send some quarter pallets and stretch wrap and everything has to be ready to go by Friday. He doesn't send this before late Wednesday. And to make matters worse, he sends me one roll of stretch wrap and, by my count, too few pallets. I call him back, tell him I need 2 more rolls of wrap and some pallets, in which he proceeds to tell me to make do. I did call someone else at the store to try and make them send another stretch wrap. I never did get one, so I guess boss intercepted that plea as well. Time for malicious compliance. I spend all Thursday accommodating customers while zipping around packing pallet after pallet. One stacked quite alarmingly higher than the other, while one is filmed with an even less layer than the one before. Even a blind person could see just how poor of a job all of this was. 43 quarter pallets to be exact. One even crappier stacked and filmed than the next. Oh, I made do. A truck pulls up out back Friday, and I keep hauling pallet after pallet out. The 2 guys assigned do not look pleased, however. They can see just how hazardous this crap load is going to be to drive with. They still manage to load it up without much hassle, but not without taking their time balancing every other pallet. I'm pretty much in disbelief they even accepted to haul it at all. My shift, and thus my job, ends almost to the minute that they're done loading. I lock the place up, hand the keys to one of the guys, and head off into the sunset as I pleasantly await a call from my former boss. An hour creeps by and my phone rings. Boss is screaming and shouting at the other end about dozens upon dozens of shattered bottles and wine everywhere in the truck and on their loading bay, and what the freak was I even doing? I told them that I made do as I ended the call. See, this is why HR, when they get 1, 2, 5 little cases reported to them, should actually deal with the situation before they get one massive problem, like dozens and dozens of stock being completely ruined because they're just an incompetent GM. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you haven't, subscribe and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you do, whether it's just viewing the video, liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, I appreciate the heck out of it. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, and I can't thank you enough for it. So, until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll be right here next time on the Storytime channel.